varieties
Recording
of
in
the
progress.
levels and paths, and thus swiftly attain the state of Vajradhara. So let's go on to the four immeasurables. May all beings have happiness and create the causes of happiness. May they all be free from suffering and creating the causes of suffering. May they find that noble happiness which can never be tainted by suffering. May they attain universal impartial compassion, free of worldly bias towards friends and enemies. Sem centam dewa tang dewe ju tang den pa ju chik, dungal chichu tang tra wa ju chik, dungal mepe dewa tampa tang mindra wa ju chik, nearing chak tang ni tang tra we tang nom chempo la ne pa ju chik. So this morning, we're going to do a Buddhist peek into the story of the Wizard of Oz. Okay, and I'm sure the others will just catch it up on YouTube, so I'm sure it's fine. You know, if you can, after the lecture and when you have time, go onto your phones and download the movie of the Wizard of Oz. You can get it on your phone, but there are also other versions. Go to the original Judy Garland version on your phone and watch it, because then you'll really be able to understand it. And the delightful songs, I wish I could sing them all. I'll try and sing a few maybe, but they're really so beautiful, and the songs have such deep meaning. And when you watch that, I can remember watching the movie as a little girl and just loving it. But of course, you don't really understand what it's about. But the person who wrote the script for this movie and designed it and everything really knew a lot about spiritual philosophy, Buddhism, and everything. And I got to do The Wizard of Oz from Joey Green's book, The Zen of Oz. I'm not suggesting you try and get that. I got it a long time ago, but he did the whole, he's quite a cute writer, and he did the whole thing on the Zen of Oz and what it really meant. So I've taken a couple of things from him, but I've made our own philosophy fit the story in a beautiful way. And so, but I think there's so many deep perceptions in it. So that's the book, and that's Dorothy and her three friends. And of course, all her friends are aspects of herself, and we've all got those aspects, okay, as she goes along the yellow brick road, and the yellow brick road is your spiritual path, step by step. It's a brick road because step by step on that road until you, but the road's got a lot of potholes and a lot of disasters, and she meets with them, but in the end, she says there's no place like home. And home, if you look at the word home, it's got in the middle. So it's like your true essence, you know, when there's no place at home. But I thought, because we've been doing a lot of very deep studies, difficult studies over the past week, it would be good to take the Wizard of Oz and apply it to our own lives, our own delusions, our own projection, our own craziness of obsessive ideas lands us in the very situations that we don't want, because what we obsess about will definitely come about. Remember that what we obsess about will definitely come about, because our minds create it. So if you've got an obsession and fears and all of that kind of thing, your mind will definitely attract that to you. There's no doubt about it. And what we resist seems to persist. So it's really an important thing. And the story of the Wizard of Oz teaches us of our mind's creations in an enchanting way, with songs and fantasy lands, Munchkin Land and Emerald City and so on. But if you take your own life and you really examine it, you'll see how you have created the circumstances of your life, because those are the deep karmic imprints that were there before they manifested as hardships, bereavement themes, deprivations, abundance, lack of meaningful relationship, feelings of inferiority, fearfulness, and all of that. We had those imprints, so they manifest immediately, and they definitely manifest in the families that we are in. So what happens when you've got that imprint or that idea, your impelling consciousness pushes you into the circumstances that bring these imprints into manifestation. So you can never grumble and say, why am I in this situation? Why aren't I in a better situation? Why haven't I got abundance? Why? It's your creation. And only when you change that, and it may not even be able to change in a lifetime, but it can shift, even if it's a deep one that can't change. It can definitely shift in that life, and it's really important. So what, in the 12 links on the Wheel of Life, the 12 links in the Wheel of Life show how karma works and how things appear in this world. Not only a primary cause for an effect to occur, but also secondary conditions and circumstances. The actions we take obviously influence the direction of our lives. And the 12 links of the Wheel of Life show us, as the quote that I took, how past, present, and future are karmically linked to one another. Also a question of how much free will do we have? How much free will do we have? And how much are we just catapulted by our impelling consciousness of, how much are we catapulted? Free will we think we have is largely illusion, because we don't have that freedom, and our predispositions lead us, even with choosing, to that course of action. So it's really, really, really important that you actually understand that, and it's interesting because, my sister was asking me on this trip, but do you have a choice in your circumstances of your life? So I answered her by saying, when you are enlightened, yes. When you are unenlightened, ignorant, no, you have no choice. Because the impelling consciousness that is caused by ignorance and your volitional activity catapults you into the circumstances. Every time you come into a human life, for sure, you are coming into that life because you've got to overcome those circumstances. Okay, that's why you are getting into that life. No other reason. Obviously, if you decide to take the yellow brick road in your life while you're going through your burn, just unmute. You don't want to. Okay. So
sorry, I thought it. I haven't got it. Is recording. Sorry, I thought it was not recording. Sorry.
So what I'm saying to you is that so I explained. I said you don't have a choice. If your karmic situations, and if your karmic situations are really impelling, and you haven't actually worked them out, then you land up being catapulted into those circumstances, and you're going, what's the point of my life? Why am I here? Why am I financially deprived? Why have I got this? Why have I got that? And you'll see in the story of Dorothy that she is catapulted by the cyclone of all her disturbed emotions into circumstances which help her to learn. And when she meets Glinda, the good witch, okay, who is her teacher's also quite deceptive to her, because she tells her you need to go on that journey, which was actually not necessary if she came to it in the first place. But what I want you all to understand, which is really, really important, is that there is nobody outside of you that gives you these circumstances of your life. You give them yourself. You're impelling, when you look at the word impelling consciousness, it actually impels you into circumstances to work this out, because there's absolutely no point in coming to the end of a lifetime with all these imprints that you haven't resolved. Because and I was explaining this on this holiday to my sister. I was explaining to her that depending on where you come when you die, you can liberate yourself. You can liberate yourself in the circumstances, or you can be catapulted into the third bardo, and there you see all your imprints. Nobody's showing them to you. Your mind is projecting them. And then from that, it becomes quite scary when there are negative imprints and you just want to escape. So you go into a body and start the whole life again. So it's just as well to really, really look now and say, what is being repeated in my life over and over and over again that I'm not getting? And when I'm with my family intensively like this, I see so many mirrors. Oh my God, I see a million mirrors when I'm in with my family, because basically they have I can't say they have no respect for who I am spiritually. And I have to look at that. In other words, I've got to just participate in everything, but they have no respect for the fact that I see things in a different way. And that's a very important lesson. That's a very important mirror, because why am I in that circumstance? And can I agree to that circumstance without getting quite bitchy and ugly and everything in those situations? Can I just tolerate it and actually know that this is really good training for me? And it is good training for me. It's excellent training, because Guru Rinpoche is asking me to have one foot deeply in samsara, but yet to have my mind outside of that all the time. And so it's a very big demand, because it's so much easier to do this when you're in a lovely retreat place. Now I've come home and they can all come wandering in, but I've got my space here, nobody can interfere with it. And that's beautiful to me. And I'm so happy when I see my beautiful garden, because I can really retreat into my room and do what I need to do. But it's really difficult. Okay. And when you ask yourself, have they really manifested these poisons, or are they just illusions of the mind? These are the questions that the Wizard of Oz asks you to make. Okay, it's really important that you understand, because the story, and really go and watch it on your phone, but get the original one with Judy Garland, who sings. She's so beautiful in it, and all the things, where she's always singing, someday over the rainbow, skies are blue, and some over dare to dream, do your dreams come true? She sings it all the time. She's looking at the rainbow and saying, there must be a better life for me there. Was there? She comes to the conclusion at the end that it was always okay at home, because her story, Dorothy's story, is the story of so many people. She was orphaned at a young age and sent to her Aunt Em and uncle, who were a little bit older. They had no children except her, and they didn't really have patience with her. And her auntie was always saying, Dorothy, you're always daydreaming and you're always fantasizing, and what is it without you? They had no time. So she creates naughty circumstances, so she'd rather get into trouble than be ignored, and she misses her mommy, and Aunt Em is not a mommy. Now, why would a little girl be in that situation where she's sent to her aunt and uncle, okay, and she's got her little doggy Toto, who gets her into a lot of trouble between them? But the point is, she's always dreaming somewhere over the rainbow. And so in her mind actually takes her over the rainbow. And then she realizes, she meets all her shadow sides, all the different sides. the scarecrow, the tin man, and the scarecrow, the tin man, and the fearful lion. Okay, she meets those three. And it's absolutely beautiful because the one day, you know, she's always getting herself into trouble. And her aunt and uncle are running this farm, and they've got this place where the animals are looked after, the chickens or whatever. She goes and walks along the wall, you know, walks along this narrow wall and falls off, okay, and bumps her head. And the farm workers are very fond of her. So this one farm worker comes to her and says, you know, Dorothy, you really ought to, when you want to live through life, you need to have brains. I mean, I call that wisdom. You need to have brains. You need to have a heart of really understanding everything. And you need to have fearlessness. So those three are the three that she confronts on the journey, you know. And it's interesting because if you look in the beginning of the film, he's already telling her, this is what you need. Don't fall off the wall with your bad attention, because you're not going to get what you want. Rather look inside yourself and see what it is. And, you know, all her adventures, which I'll talk about in a moment with Miss Gulch. Miss Gulch is this really wicked woman who owns half of Kansas, and she's on her back. She carries her whole life in a basket on her back, you know, and she's a real old maid. And Dorothy allows her dog to run into Miss Gulch's house, and then she goes and Toto goes and catches her cat. So Miss Gulch is furious. And then Dorothy comes back to her auntie and says, you know what Miss Gulch did to me? And, you know, she's telling her auntie, saying, please pay me attention. And her aunt takes no notice of it, you know. So she was prepared to be bad, even to the extent of losing her dog, so that her aunt would give her the attention. So that's the background of the whole of the Wizard of Oz, which is really, really an interesting background for it to do. And, you know, the fact that Glinda, the good witch, you know, Glinda, the good witch, really, really, really gives her advice. But you have to ask yourself the question, as Joey Green does, why does she give her often, you know, advice that isn't the best advice when she knows? And she says, you need to, if you want to go back to Kansas when Dorothy goes, you need to go and see the Wizard of Oz. And of course, the Wizard of Oz is just a fraud, an absolute fraud. And Glinda knows that. But she knows that the journey to get to the Wizard of Oz will open Dorothy to the potential of knowing, I'm not just a poor orphan looking over the rainbow to see what I want to see, okay? She creates these with her mind. And when you think about it, how many times do you create that? And when they go on the pathway, on the yellow brick road, they go, we're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. We think he is so wonderful because of the wonderful things he does, because of this, because of that. And, you know, I have a chuckle at the wizard, because in the song it goes, because they're thinking, why are we going? We don't know why we're going. And then put yourself into that position. So how many times do we say to ourselves, why am I doing this again? Why am I putting this off? Because, you know, just to get a lovely idea and make a reason for you, but you haven't really got a reason, because your real true nature knows that it's not the reason. Okay, so when Dorothy goes to the places of her own mind, she always thinks they're real. And what does this mean? What does this mean in terms of Buddhist philosophy? Okay, that we project our experiences, and then we come to a realm of samsara, even mini realms, like drug addicts get together so they can rationalize their things together. People who've got cancer the same kind of cancer get together so that they can be together. You create a realm with your mind. And all the 6 realms of samsara and their sub-realms are realms where we go into that realm. So for example, if you really have angry imprints, even from previous lives, you just go into a hell realm and you stay in that hell realm right up until the day you actually ask the question, is this all there is to it? As soon as you ask that, you're out of the realm. As soon as you ask the question, you're no longer in that realm. Like the hungry ghost realm that we've got in South Africa, it really is a hungry ghost realm. You can see it. What is the hungry ghost realm? The hungry ghost realm is when they see a beautiful mirage over there and they think they're going to get it. And in the hungry ghost realm, it's never enough. Now, sometimes when I read what these politicians are doing, pinching all the money, I go, when is it enough? They want to buy these fancy cars. They want to have these fancy homes, and it's never enough. And they go on stealing and corruption. And it's a hungry ghost realm in your head. It's not enough. My mother told me that we were deprived. And I need to be sure that I'm never deprived again. And it becomes a mentality. And the mentality becomes a realm where you go together with other people in a realm. And Denny, when you asked me that question, like, is there collective consciousness? Collectively, you're in a realm together. You reinforce each other. This crook helps this crook, and so on and so forth. And even in the God realm, you'll see the lands that Dorothy goes to. The Munchkins are very beautiful, except they've got the wicked witch that rules them, okay, and that subjugates them. But they're very, very sweet, dualistic beings, little like this, in Munchkin Land when Dorothy arrives there. So when we look at it, people are always looking, and that's the story in The Wizard of Oz. You project outside of yourself that somebody is going to save you. And then when you don't get saved, it's like a really, really, oh, sorry, Jane, sorry. It's like a real different, it's like a real surprise to you because you've projected it from your mind. And if you look at the dictionary's definition of projection, the definition is a mental image viewed as objective reality. So you're right there. Dorothy goes, my, but people come and go so quickly because your mind creates it all the time, all the time, all the time. And she says to Toto when she lands in Munchkin Land, Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. Now, how many of us do this? Project, oh, I'd love this beautiful life, and hopefully someone can provide it for us. And then it's never the same when you get it. It's never the same. So if you've got loneliness in your life, or if you've got abandonment as your issue, that was her issue in this life, then you've got to understand this is exactly the circumstances you need to clear out that alaya consciousness, that substrate consciousness. And that's why the Tibetan Book of the Dead says, O noble son and daughter, do not be afraid of what you see. They are only projections of your mind. Okay, that's all. And Guru Rinpoche says, when you remain unharmed by suffering and difficulties, when you remain unharmed by suffering and difficulties, that is the sign of understanding appearances as illusions. Does anyone want to say anything? I'm going to start this story. Okay. Because
will you just say that one again, what Guru Rinpoche said?
Yeah. He said, when you remain unharmed by suffering and difficulties, that is a sign of understanding appearances to be illusions. Very important. Every appearance is an illusion. And I look at this house and I think to myself, people say, Melanie, it's so beautiful and all that kind of thing. And I think, how did I get here? I don't know. It's like as though, this was the place that I've got to spend for the rest of this lifetime. And I'm amazed and blessed to think that I'm actually here and that, I've got all my things and I've got all my books and I've got all the things that I need to be able to go on a spiritual journey. But it's an illusion. It's a very comfortable one at the moment, but it's not home. It's just a temporary dwelling for whatever years I've got left. Remember that. It's really important that you remember that. Mimi, just put your what's her name on, otherwise the things change. So with the realms, there are manifestations of the karmic.
Mel,
Yes.
can I please do my usual interruptions?
Completely, you may.
Wonderful. I'm just listening to you and your wonderful home. That's an attachment into that realm. You need all these funny things. I'm calling it funny because to me they're funny for your journey. When you, in fact, I've always said it's all in there and you don't need anything.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think all of us take whatever is around. You know what I mean? Like I've got rid of most of the stuff. I'm like in like a old place, and I absolutely love the fact that it's falling apart. It really is. But that's what I need. You know what I mean? To glue me together. I need a place that's falling apart.
Wonderful.
So it's not a criticism of you.
No.
I'm saying is that, and the people, your family, your friends who coming to look at this home, to them it's a wow. It's not, but they have their own homes and tools to take them on their journey. You know what I mean? They need to click their heels as well.
Completely and totally. I agree with you. And I'm totally aware of that. That's what I'm saying to you. I just wanted to have a place that I don't need to think about anymore. I was in such temporary, transitory thing.
For a long time.
We still are temporary and transient, but I don't have to think about it anymore. I don't have to plan anything. I can leave all that behind and get on with my spiritual journey. But I am fully aware of what you're saying, and I'm not one bit attached. I'm totally happy. I'm totally delighted to have it, but I'm absolutely not attached. If I had to lose it, I'd have to go somewhere else, But for me, it's having a place where I can fulfill what I need to do while I've got a boot in samsara. It really is a lovely place. And I think, what's interesting is that people come in here. We've had a lot of people troopsing in, and people say, oh, the energy in this house. And I'm thinking, how could there be energy? I only had about 3 weeks in this house, I haven't yet put my energy in, but you know what? Again,
it's there.
Yeah,
it's there.
The energy is there. And because Lama Yeshe Rinpoche told me that if you use Guru Rinpoche mantra where you are before to draw all the energy out and place it into the net, your energy will just follow you wherever you are. You don't have to build it up in the same way. So no, what you're saying is no insult, really, really true. And I get it. I really, really do. So
I'm just saying that, like every single one of us, what we all have too much,
Yeah, we do.
But it's all those little things that we're taking with us, that's what like pushes us on the journey. And yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm,
Absolutely. Really, and I
okay.
agree with you. And I'm trying keeping everything minimalistic. I'm trying to
Mm.
keep really minimalistic everything. And I think it's really important to get rid of as much stuff as possible.
And just something else, I'm a mine of useless information, but
Not-
but Frank Baum, who wrote The Wizard of Oz,
Yeah.
that he had a very strong mother-in-law, if you ever read his biography, and she was a member of the Theosophical Society.
Oh, really?
So
That's
was he, and so was his wife.
how
So,
interesting.
yes, I can't remember if he believed in a God or not, but I doubt it. So
Wow.
that is why his books can be used spiritually. He was a deeply spiritual man. It's just something, by
Amazing.
the way.
I
Yeah.
think that's
Mm,
fascinating.
mm,
Fascinating because the Theosophical Society was so advanced for that age. I
yeah.
mean, it's
I
really
mean,
advanced.
it must have been in the like 1890, something
Yeah,
around there. Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, that was
But,
probably the most advanced because in the West,
mm,
Buddhism wasn't heard of in those days,
mm,
Buddhist philosophy. So
mm,
that's fascinating. Oh, I'm so
mm,
delighted to hear it because you can
mm,
hear that the person who knows it. So,
mm.
so that's amazing. Dorothy's song, just to give
And
you
I
the
enjoy your singing, so go on with it. Okay.
she just
You can
says,
do the whole thing
oh,
in song.
somewhere
There we
over
go.
rainbow skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. That's the basis of it, and then all the other things that go in with that song. Okay, but we all know that the tale goes very much deeper. And I think children, with their innocence, really probably get the depth of the story far easier than we as adults because they're still fresh. And this place over the rainbow is spoken about all the time. But in Buddhism, we quickly learn that over the rainbow is not a place. It's not a place, but a state of mind obtainable at any moment right here. It's a pure land right within us. Remember that always when you're looking at Over the Rainbow. And I took Lamayeshi's poem that he wrote that we used in one of the, a lot of you don't know, a lot of you do know, I used to always do all these beautiful plays with songs and everything whenever the lamas came. Then we made them up and, we really did them. And unfortunately, Bern, I can't give you, we made a song out of Lamayeshi's his poem, and I can't find the song. I know.
I've got it.
Have you got it? Because
I've got it.
I know that it's on one of my CDs that have been converted, but I couldn't find it last night. But in any case, because I got this girl Lorraine, and she sang it in a beautiful, beautiful voice. This was Lamayeshi's poem, but I'm just going to read it to you. Can you put it up, Bern? I sent it to you last night.
You sent me Sky.
Yeah, Sky. That is Lamayeshi's poem that he wrote in one of his books, and we converted it to a song, actually, but let's all read it together. Okay? So, Sky, this is his poem. As you know, the sky is very, very blue and very, very transparent. It has no center or limitation. So you see, your mind is like the sky. But sometimes, lots of clouds come into space from nowhere with no warning, not warming, with no warning. but they also disappear, just like they come. Your thoughts and emotions are just like the clouds. They come from nowhere, but as long as you give them solidity, they give you problems. Sometimes, if there are lots of clouds, they create rain, just like this. When you hold onto your emotions, when you give them solidity, it gives you tears. But if you can always remember your own Buddha nature, which is limitless like space, and let go of the cloud-like emotions, you will be a very, very happy person. Beautiful poem. And this Lorraine actually, thanks, Bern. Lorraine actually converted it in our group, in the play we did, to a song with her. She had this exquisite voice, but exquisite. She used to take all my poems and put them to music for us, and then we gave them. And unfortunately, she was such an unhappy person herself, and she actually did herself in the end, and I was very, very, very upset to hear, with a voice like a nightingale. Okay, but we'll find that. If Bern finds it, it'll be beautiful, because we can play it next time. Okay, but Dorothy also says there's no place like home, Aunt Em. In other words, we already possess the attributes we seek right where we are. Once you discover the highest awakened nature, you spontaneously fill your dreams. It is right there. The yellow brick road, our spiritual journey, it's yellow because it's a golden opportunity, bright and joyful, but with obstacles and potholes. It's bricks because most of us take the journey brick by brick, step by step, okay? And lots of us like to jump right over the path, because the path, as Yeshe Tsogyal tells us, is just an illusion. But a lot of us like to have that pathway step by step by step. So at the beginning of the story, the karma or the karmic imprint, Dorothy's impelling consciousness brings her to a bleak and gray life, where she loses her parents and as an orphan is sent to her aunt and uncle who haven't got time for her. They're running a farm. The aunt's always telling her imagination is so great, her fantasies are beyond acceptable. And she leaves Dorothy to her own devices most of the time, and you'll watch it on the movie, to work out her own problem. She's a bit of a nuisance to Aunt Em, although Aunt Em does love her as much as she can. And she misses her mother's love, and Aunt Em can't take her mother's place, and Dorothy feels totally excluded. She often does lots of things to get attention. I'm sure that we know lots of children who would rather do really naughty things to get attention than at least they get the attention, even though it's negative attention. And she goes, "If happy little bluebirds fly over the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I?" It goes something like that. If the happy bluebirds fly, why can't I? I can't remember the exact tune of that one. Okay. She wants a nurturing environment where the dreams she dares to dream really do come true. She puts all her energy and affection into Toto, her dog. And she goes past Miss Gulcher's house, and Toto goes along to run after the cat. And then the cat, I think he wants to go. Just hang on one moment. She goes and she runs after the cat, and the cat, every time she does, Miss Toto runs after him and wants to punch him and wants to punch the cat. Sorry, in case he wants to get out, and wants to punish the cat and punish the dog and wants to have him taken away, which eventually she really does get. She goes to the sheriff, and then Dorothy comes back to her aunt and says, "You know what You know what Miss Gulch did, and her aunt's not remotely interested. It doesn't even give her the attention for what she did. But she thinks trouble is better than being ignored, okay? And the dream of the rainbow is the only thing to color her world. Now, it's very interesting, Karen, because, clearly our author knew about the rainbow, and the rainbow is the expression of the beautiful essence, okay? So the rainbow expresses it. So the song is very, very at somewhere over the rainbow. But what's important is with the karmic imprints and with the impelling consciousness, the choices that we have in life. Number one, we have to take responsibility for them. Number two, the karma is created by you. And number three, no accident about your sorrowful circumstances. No accident, although we like to do it. And how do we integrate that into ourselves, even as a child? How do we see that these circumstances were perfect for us? We're not going to see it as a child. People who come from abusive families and everything are always very, very unhappy and can't understand why God put them in that situation or whatever. So as a child, it's really, really difficult. You can go into your fantasy world to change that. But as soon as you develop awareness, that's when you have to start looking in the mirror. It's really, really important, because what happens to a lot of people, and that's where the shadow comes in, is that the parts of them that are unacceptable to their parents and to themselves get actually cast off by people, and they can't heal it when those negative parts of you get cast off. It's like if you don't look at the shadow and you don't see what your shadow side is, as Jung points out, you can't reintegrate it. So it's really important to see what your own shadow side was and reintegrate them. Now, what happened with Dorothy is that she got into trouble, and Miss Gulch decided that the sheriff, she's taking the dog to the sheriff, and she came to fetch him. And there was a whole hullabaloo, and she took Toto in her basket on her back, okay? And Toto jumps off. And when Toto jumps off, he runs back to Dorothy, and she now realizes she better run away somewhere over the rainbow with Toto. So she picks up Toto and runs away. She takes a little suitcase and she runs away. And as she crosses a bridge, very symbolic, as she crosses a bridge, she meets Professor Marvel. And listen to his name, Professor Marvel, Marvelous Marvel, okay, who is a clairvoyant. I don't think Professor Marvel has even got 1 inch of clairvoyance, but he looks at her throat, he looks at all her things and everything, and he realizes she's running away. So he looks in his crystal ball and he tells her she must go back home because Aunt Em is very ill. So she's very, very happy to take this from Professor Marvel. And look how you apply this to your life. You know how many people go to clairvoyants, and clairvoyants tell them what to do with their lives, and they really believe it, whether they're fraudulent or not, and they carry that out. And I understand that very, very well. And in the meantime, it's not always for your benefit, but we want somebody else to tell us. We're always looking for an authority figure outside. So Professor Marvel realized she's running away, and he tells her to go back. So she decides she better go back, but then she gets caught in the cyclone. Okay, and what is the cyclone? The cyclone is a physical manifestation of her inner struggle. Now, if you look in some of the places in America, they're always having cyclones. It's very interesting, because if you look at that collectively, Denny, they're all people who obviously are in turmoil. That's why they're living in an area where cyclones are so prevalent. Okay, but the cyclone is a physical manifestation of your inner struggle. Your mind is going around and around and around and around. And that is the inner cyclone. So she gets caught in the movie in a terrible cyclone. She tries to go home and she's in this terrible, terrible struggle. She tries to go home. And when she gets back, the cyclone is taking place and she gets knocked out by the cyclone. She's looking for Aunt Em. She can't find her. She gets knocked out by the cyclone and wakes up in Munchkin land. Okay, now think about this. Think about this. We are the creators of our karma. We are responsible to change the karma. She went and led the dog into Miss Gulch, who then took him away, which then led her to run away. She thought she had to do it. And she never looked at her rejection. She never looked at anything. So she gets knocked in her head and her house goes flying to Munchkin land, all in her mind, and knocks out the Wicked Witch. I think the Wicked Witch of the West or the Wicked Witch of the East. I'm not sure which one. And so when she wakes up, she says to Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. And all these little munchkins come and they're going, she killed the Wicked Witch. I can't remember how the song goes. Sorry, Karen, I can't think of it. But, she wakes up and she's the heroine in Munchkin land because she's killed the Wicked Witch. And she is the one who's done it. And she says, I didn't kill anybody. I didn't. But the house that she was traveling in knocked the Wicked Witch of the West over, or the Wicked Witch of the East, I can't remember. And so she lands up killing them. And so she becomes the heroine of these little munchkin people. And who are these little munchkin? They're dualistic people. They get controlled by the Wicked Witch. She rules them like a tyrant. And now the witch is dead. And Glinda, who is a real good witch, she arrives in a beautiful pink bubble. And Dorothy says, I didn't know there were any good witches. In my storybooks, there are only wicked witches. Now that is such an important question because I wrote it down because somehow or another, just let me see, Glinda, when she comes down floating in the pink bubble, she says to Dorothy, are you a good or a bad witch? And Dorothy doesn't know anything. She says, but I'm not a witch. And Glinda's asking her, which witch are you? Which witch are you? Now, when you look at this, it's such a beautiful play on the word witch because that's our labels. Are you a good witch? Are you a bad witch? Do you follow the rules? Do you rebel? What are you? Which witch are you? These are all our labels of everything that we do. We label it. This is a good deed. This is a bad deed. This is a good deed. This is a bad deed. This is a good witch. This is a bad witch. And so she's showing her that basically, what is she planting in Dorothy's mind? She's saying, become aware that all the things you think of are just labels. They're just dualistic labels. Your sixth level of consciousness, after the others, your sixth level of consciousness is where your mind labels something. And which are you? I think you're all good witches. Okay, that's just a label, because I don't know what's going on inside you, how much wickedness you've got, what kind of witch you really are. These are the questions we all have to have, okay? So it's very important because as soon as the Wicked Witch gets killed, the witch, when Glinda comes from the north. Now it's very interesting, Karen, because if he was a Theosophist, in the mandala, there are 4 directions. And if you look at them of the wisdoms, the 4 directions are very, 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 very unusual and give us all the particular wisdoms, but let's not go into that. What happens when the Wicked Witch dies is that Glinda goes and gets the ruby slippers. Now it's interesting because ruby is red. That's Amitabha's sphere. That's discriminating wisdom. And she gives Dorothy the ruby slippers. And she says, never take these off your feet. Now what she's telling Dorothy is, your inner spark, your Buddha nature, as long as you are totally aware of it, you are safe. Are you all safe? Are you safe no matter where you go, no matter, I mean, a lot of you are going through really hard illness and things like that at the moment. Are you safe? Have you got the ruby slippers on? Can you discern? Can you discriminate? Is your Buddha nature, your awakened nature, going to be the part that really wins in the end and takes you through? Let's hear your points, okay? Because after that, the other Wicked Witch, the sister of the one Wicked Witch, comes to try and get the red slippers from her sister. She rules another land. She rules another land entirely, but she comes to try and get the ruby slippers. And she can't get them off Dorothy's feet because Dorothy's not giving them anywhere. And they remind her of a real essence. Anyone want to say anything? I mean, Yeshe Tsagil said, she gave in her final instruction, the path stage is delusion. It has no reality. So you're going on that path to meet all the different characters, to really learn about yourself, to come back to what you had right at the beginning of the path and find out what it is, your own true nature. It's very interesting, okay? So you have great power if you've got those ruby slippers. It's really interesting. And what Joey Green says about Glinda, Glinda is the real master. She appears, reassures, encourages, reprimands, and then leaves you so you can figure it out yourself. Whereas the Wicked Witch works by intimidation, power, and interference, intimidating all the people. Now, these little munchkins are really, she's their national heroine, and they start to give her instructions with an inspiring mantra. They say to her, follow the yellow brick road, follow the yellow brick road, follow the yellow brick road, follow the yellow brick road. Think about our mantras. What are they? We just went, Om Mahung Benza Guru Pema Siddhi Hung. You know, the mantra has power. The repetition of it, they're urging her in a simple way to align herself with the infinite potential of the universe, okay? It's really important because the munchkins are all about goodness and badness. They're simple. They've got a dualistic mind. You're the one that knocked over the witch. You killed her. We're free from her. You are now our national heroine. She stands much taller than the little munchkin. They hide in the bushes and then they all come out and they call her their heroine. Just think of how much that is like us. It's really unbelievable because we really do that, and then we give somebody else all the power to do whatever it is. And it's really important to understand this properly and see it, okay? So they have a colorful, giggling, sweet world, but it's all about duality. It's all about good and bad, right and wrong. They have ethics. They want to see if Dorothy has ethics before accepting her. It's a good land, Munchkin land, but you can't get further. Think about it. It's like a God realm. If you think about the God realm of samsara, it's the highest realm of samsara. But what happens to all the gods? They have this beautiful life, lots of food, lots of people, absolutely exquisite. I mean, Hollywood's a little bit like a God realm. But then when it comes to their death, they're not prepared in any way. They've had this beautiful realm. And then it takes them absolutely a long, long time to die. And they have to go back into a human incarnation to work out their spiritual path. So, you know, Dorothy realizes a lot of this when she's there with Glinda, and she says, I really want to return home to Kansas. She says, Glinda tells her, only the Wizard of the Land of Oz can help you. Why? Why does she tell her when she knows it is absolutely not true? That the Wizard of Oz is a fraud. But she tells her because Dorothy's got to go on her pathway to discover her inner potential, and maybe you need the external to get on the road. So Dorothy goes, and the little munchkins, they sad she's going, but they follow the yellow brick road, follow the yellow brick road. And Choggin Trumpa says, if you're looking for external magic and a savior, then you will just bind yourself instead of freeing yourself. So then she starts singing with Toto. We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. He is a wonderful wizard because of the wonderful things he does. Just think of how we convince ourselves all the time, you know. I'm going to Melanie's lectures because, you know, we carry on all the time, making these rationalizations.
Mel, you're frozen. She's coming back in.
Okay,
Oh, good.
I'm sorry, you know, something is causing a short in the electrical circuit. So as soon as she uses one of those instruments, the whole thing goes off. But it is recording, so everything is fine. Okay, so we're gonna soon do a meditation, but I just want to start by and then we'll do the meditation by saying that she's going to meet 3 friends on this pathway: the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Fearful Lion. Okay, and it's interesting, the Fearful Lion, Corin, don't ask me where he got it from in the 90s or whatever, but, you know, the Fearful Lion is a little bit effeminate. So I don't know. Today they could give him another whole title, but he's a little bit effeminate, the Fearful Lion, and he's really afraid of everything, you know. But she meets those 3 characters, and as she meets them and they become friends and they're off to see the Wizard of Oz, it's amazing because she says, you know, it's funny, I've just met you, but I know you so well. There's the Wicked Witch, and there's all of them in the what's the name of the Wicked Witch, and what were the other ones I sent you called Burn? That's the other witch who they had to rescue her from, and that's where they found all their courage and their brains and their everything. Are there more, Burn? There was one more, I think. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's fine. So when you look at these 3, she's walking along, and there's a scarecrow in the field. And she says, I don't know which way to go. There are 4 directions. And then she hears this voice telling her which choice to make, okay, whether she should go left or right. And she says, who spoke? And the scarecrow says, I spoke. And then she says, I didn't know scarecrows could speak. And the scarecrow, he says, when he was made, he never got any brains. He never got wisdom. But meanwhile, in the story, the scarecrow's got the most wonderful, wonderful wisdom. When they're going through a dark side, the scarecrow says, you have to go through the dark to get to the light. You almost watch the movie so then we can talk very easily about it. He says, so the scarecrow's got this wonderful wisdom and he wants brains. And when Dorothy says, how do I get you off the post? He says, just bend the nail this way, that way, the other way, and then I'll come off. So he goes, he tells her with his brains, and then he asks her, where are you going? And she says, I'm going to see the Wizard of Oz. And he says, do you think the Wizard of Oz would give me brains? Actually, I like it if you said, do you think he would give me wisdom? You know, he already had wisdom. And how many people come and say, I'm on this journey and I really, really need wisdom, okay? He represented that, and he becomes the great philosopher on the journey. He's always giving them all the ideas and all the things that they have to go through. He always had it in you, and so do we. But each of these characters is the shadow side that we've got, the one that doesn't believe that they've got the intellect or the wisdom. It's really important when you look at the scarecrow to see that in actual fact, we've got all those things. And the shadow side says, everybody else can. I was never very good at school. I never got good results at school. And it's got that idea, that pre thing, and tries to not show anybody its lack of wisdom or its lack of brains. But what we are asked to do in Buddhism is to look at this inferiority that a lot of us have, that I could never do it, I could never teach. You know, people say to me when they have people coming to see them about things, but I could never teach them. And I go, of course you could teach them. Just allow your beautiful nature to come through. The whole story is about the fact that if you've got the red slippers, if you've got the Buddha nature in your heart, it will take care of everything as you go along the road. It'll just help you spontaneously to bring through whatever it is that you need to do. I'm going to go on to the Tin Man, but not today. Does anyone want to say anything, or would you like to do a meditation and then ask a few questions? But maybe some people, do you want to ask something here? Anybody want to ask or say? It's very important, this, because it's really looking deeply at your own self, your own impelling consciousness. You know, they say on the wheel of life, there's the impelling consciousness, and there's the consciousness of the impelled result, which lands you in those circumstances. Like if I'm looking at all of you, I can see lots of where you landed and what you had to learn. It's really important. So does anyone want to say anything or ask anything? Please do, because this is your chance to resolve it. All right, then let's do a meditation. And then maybe after that, let's look at a little bit of the shadow side. And let's do just a little meditation. So I want you to sit in your meditation position. I'll just do the gong. I want you to just breathe in and breathe out. And I want you to come to this moment. What am I doing here? What are all the things in my life that I really need to resolve? Do I really believe that I have this beautiful, awakened nature that has natural compassion, natural wisdom, natural courage? Or am I always attaching myself to somebody who can help me? And when Glinda sends Dorothy on the road, she knows, even though she knows that it's garbage to go to the Wizard of Oz to get home to Kansas, She could do it right there, but she would never learn the lesson. I want you to look at how many lessons you've needed to learn in this life. What are your most difficult situations and circumstances? That repeat themselves over and over again. What is your impelling consciousness? Do you just go along with the impelling consciousness? Or can you see when something is pulling you in a particular direction, you don't really want to go? But you don't have the ability to actually change that. You do, but you think you don't. What are your dark sides? What is the side that goes over and over and over again? Am I a perfectionist that never believes it's enough? Am I lazy? Do I lack courage? Do I find it difficult to have a compassionate heart when people are different to me? I want you to breathe in to Lama Yeshe's beautiful, beautiful blue sky. And I want you to see in your mind's eye the beautiful blue sky. Its infinite ability. Its infinite spaciousness. It can accommodate absolutely everything. And it's blue in color, pure, open. And if you look inside yourself, most of your being is made up of that sky-like essence. You have it. But sometimes there are clouds. They have to come from all the impelling consciousness, from the karma, from the things you are needing to learn. Just take a breath into this total wholeness, this total spaciousness that can accommodate everything, and face whatever it is in the clouds. Maybe I'm too quick to judge. Maybe I'm so scared to be alone. Maybe I think I'm not good enough and I like everything to be absolutely perfect. Maybe I think I'm ugly and old and can't do anything. Maybe I think I'm broken, like Corin said about her house. Just allow all these clouds to be in the blue sky. Watch them for some time. And watch how if you don't attach to them, you are aware of them, but you don't attach to them. You just allow them to be. Then they will dissolve back into the sky. Clouds never stay forever. They come and they go. They come and they go. And if you allow them to just dissolve, they have to dissolve into the blue spaciousness of your sky-like essence mind. Don't fight with the clouds. Just give them space. Give them openness. Let them dissolve. They are not solid. None of them are. Let them dissolve. Let them be. Come to terms with yourself. instead of thinking negative things about yourself. I'm here. I'm in the right place at the right time with the right pain and the right circumstances. And everything is just perfect for my temporary drama of life. When you have that attitude, you just see the dark sides, you're aware of them, you acknowledge them, and then they dissolve into the emptiness of your sky-like nature. Now, Dorothy had to go on a long road looking for some great, important person who would help her to get back home. And the good witch allowed her to do that, because the lessons that she learned when she looked at the three, the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, and the Lion, she said, it's funny, we've just met, but I feel as though I've always known you. Of course you've always known them, because those are the shadow side that have accompanied you on your journey. Come to terms with them. Face them. Allow them. Be aware of them. But don't hold on to them, analyze them, work them out, fix them up. Don't do any of those things. Just give them spaciousness. Like Lamayeshi said, they will dissolve into the sky-like nature, which is much more powerful than they are, and which will just absorb them in. This story is a very important story, because when Dorothy is in all the different places, she really feels they're real. And guess what? We're in a human realm, and we really think it's real. And our minds have created, I'm this person, you that person, this is how we behave, this is what's happened in our country, this is this is that. And guess what? It's just a temporary outplaying of the human psyche. It's not the truth. It's just one little grain of sand. And we need to learn to look at the whole sand pit. Every single grain comes together to form this open, spacious blue essence, which is emptiness, full of possibility, but which can accommodate everything if we just are in touch with it. And that's what happens to Dorothy. She goes the whole route, and then she lands up in the end in her bed, and she says, but they were real. Her aunt says, you had a bad dream. She said, no, but it was real, same as us. And we need to take that and apply it to our lives. So it's a very interesting story, isn't it? Even if you're quiet today, it's a very interesting story, the story of Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. And I thought to myself, you know what? Let's not have a question and answer session next time. Let's have part 2 so we can finish the story while it's clear in our minds and everything. And then we can have a discussion afterwards, and you can bring up some of your shadow stuff if you want to, or some of the things you want to ask about your own, your own condition and your own thing. Listen, what's important in all these lectures is that you can look at your own self, and you can really change the things in your life so that you can move quickly to get home home being inward. And if you can't see all your faults and all your negative things, then you can't do it, because they'll come in and trip you up. I mean, it's very, very interesting that Jung felt instinctively that the term shadow was appropriate for this dissociated subpersonality, because if you don't face it, then it goes into a twilight zone in the personal unconscious, and then it trips you up. It's much better to know what your faults are than to deny them and pretend they aren't there, and then they trip you up. Right. So that's what we're trying to do, and that's what Dorothy had to do on her journey. And this guy was brilliant, the way he did it, with all the songs and all the laughter and all the lands. It's perfect to learn about ourselves. So let's dedicate, if nobody wants to say anything. But I think it's really an important thing, this Wizard of Oz, and I came back to it because it's got a lot in it that we all need. So let's dedicate Bern for all sentient beings, all those who are suffering, all those who are in wars. They're not in the wrong place, they're in the right place. For all those that are going through horror of horrors, and there's so many, you read about them every day. If there's any merit in this teaching, may they get it, and may they be free, and may they be able to actually accept their lives and their circumstances and their consciousness, and to go beyond it. And through this merit, may all beings attain omniscience, may all obscurations fall away from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. From the ocean of samsara, may all beings be freed. Sonam diye tamche zipane, topne nepe dranam pamshene, chega nachi balak dropaye, sipe sole doa do warsho.